John Eustace faces up against his former side this weekend as Blackburn Rovers travel to Derby County in a game which is one of the biggest games in the history of Derby County over the course of recent years. Now, obviously we had the administration season and all those things, but nothing will top this game. In my opinion, this game pretty much will seal our fate of whether we go down or stay up. With 11 games to go, Derby County now find ourselves 7 points away from safety. If we just take a quick look at the league table, we can see that Hull City picked up a win in midweek, Plymouth Argyle losing, and we can see it across the course of this season. Derby County have slumped, whereas others have turned their form around. Now, if Derby County want to even be in with a fight, they've got to win this weekend. Now, if we look at some other games that are coming up across the course of this weekend, where Derby County may even be able to get themselves back in the fight, Plymouth play Sheffield Wednesday, Luton face Burnley, Hull plays Bristol City, Stoke and Coventry go head-to-head, Cardiff play Sunderland. But for me, I really do think that it's pretty much said and done for Derby County now. I think the relegation battle very much hasn't been a battle with Derby County involved. Derby County have failed to fight and have failed to win. And for me, it's now time for Derby County to start looking towards the future. For me, as much as Harrison Armstrong has been really good, and, well, I say really good, he was good at Middlesbrough, chuck Darren Robinson in, chuck Jake Rooney in midfield. Let's give players a go who are going to be here next year. And people are going to say, why are you admitting defeat? And the truth is, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to admit defeat. But unfortunately, given the circumstances that we're in and the way we've got ourselves into these circumstances, I just don't think there's any other way. I think we're really in a position where we're finished. Like, we can't score a goal. I don't think we've scored in open play in something like 10 games or something like that. I think we've scored something like 3 times since Christmas, maybe 4, across all competitions. And that's at a push, because obviously Leyton Orient was Dejan Brown. So we're just in a bit of shit. And the problem is, if this shit had happened, well, the thing is, this shit did happen fucking 15 games ago. This has been going on for ages. And the problem is, we waited time and time again for Paul Warne to try and pick up some form. And I will never understand the decision that David Clowes made to give Paul Warne an entire transfer window. The slump was obvious. I noticed it at the start of December. Some people noticed it earlier than that. And a lot of people knew what was going to happen with Paul Warne. In my prediction video for the season, I said I don't think he'll last till January. And realistically, he should have gone before January. But now we find ourselves in a position where John Eustace has got to somehow find something from this team. And doing that is going to be incredibly difficult. Now, we may have Matt Clark back at the weekend. We may have Nat Phillips back as well. Obviously, Kane Wilson could be back. Which is all, it's brilliant, amazing, class. But it's not, is it? I don't think that's going to get us a result. Who's going to score goals for us? Like, genuinely, who's going to score a goal? Because Jerry Yates, when was his last goal? I genuinely don't even know when he last scored. His last goal was Norwich, the penalty, wasn't it? But if we go before that, his last goal before that was the 1st of January when we got beat 4-2. We just don't have goal scorers. We don't have chance creators. I don't know whether it's because of the way we play or what. We just don't have it. And the big problem that I continue to see with Derby County is we just don't have it. Now, if you take me back to September, I'd have told you this squad had enough, right? Because I genuinely believed it did. We got to about November, December, and I was talking about how important the January window was going to be for Derby County to. My thought process was, we'll go out and spend in January to secure our status for next season. But we didn't. And then now we end up in this relegation battle that hasn't really been a battle for Derby County, as I said. We've picked up 2 points. It's so hard to comprehend what the day-to-day runners of this club, whether that be Stephen Pearce, David Clowes, whoever, what they thought they were doing throughout January. Because I am genuinely, I'm utterly baffled by the decisions that have been made at this football club over the course of the last, say, 12 months since we got promoted, let's say. So it's probably not 12 months, make it 8. We spent barely anything in the summer. I think we spent £3 million, which was money that we received from Max Bird's sale, Jason Knight's sale, and obviously, well, you could say TV money as well for coming up, and then obviously you then look at the salon fees that we got for the likes of Kellyman, Delap, Bogle, all of those salons. And it's perfectly fine, right, that we didn't spend a lot of money, because I still think that we bought in some decent players. You look at Nat Phillips, I think he was a decent option to bring in. You look at Ben Osborne. We always knew that his fitness may be an issue, but we knew he had quality. I didn't think Marcus Harness was that bad. I still don't think Marcus Harness is that bad. I think it's a confidence problem that we have. You then obviously look at the forwards. We brought in Jerry Yates and Caden Jackson. Now, we always knew we needed more. I came out of the summer window knowing we needed more. We still needed better depth. We needed it. I spoke about it time and time again because the depth wasn't good enough. Having James Collins on the bench, Sonny Bradley, he just wasn't good enough. And at some points, we didn't even have a senior midfielder to put on the bench with injuries to Osborne, Thompson, obviously David Ozo as well. And the problem that has caused Derby County to be in this position is a lack of investment. And that can only be discussed in two ways. It's either David Clowes' fault because he's not given the money to the club, or it's on Stephen Pearce for having the money and not being able to spend it. But then you could also say it's on Paul Warne because we still don't have confirmation of whose decision it was to sign players. But based on comments made by Paul Warne, I'm still sticking my guns when it comes to saying that Paul Warne had final say on whatever players we went for. Whether we could afford them or not, it's a different story, but I still think he said yes or no to any player that was potentially coming in the door. Now, if we do take a look into, obviously, Derby versus Blackburn, we know the injury doubts that we have. Matt Clark is a doubt. Kane Wilson will be a doubt because obviously he's just returned. So they're two doubts. Matt Clark could be back. He was touch and go at the weekend. We look then at the other three: Blackett Taylor, Curtis Nelson, Dejan Brown. Anticipate they'll all be out. I think Brown's had to have surgery. Nelson, obviously ACL, he'll be out until probably October. Corey Blackett Taylor said he was a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks away. I got pulled up on that last week, so we'll make sure that that's correct. A few weeks away. But that was last week, so obviously now it'll be a couple. We look then at Blackburn Rovers. Emmanuel Dennis is suspended. Danny Bath, Harry Pickering, Owen Beck, and Scott Wharton, as well as Zach Gillesson, are all out. Should all be out for this game. Obviously, FootMob's not always 100% accurate, so don't take my word for it. They could be available. Now, if we look at the previous 5 games, Derby County have lost 3, drew 2. Blackburn Rovers won 2, lost 2, drew 1. And obviously, Blackburn Rovers are pushing for those playoff positions. I actually think they're still sitting in 6th. No, they're sitting in 8th now. Is it after tonight's game? Because Bristol City will have gone above them. Yeah, so they're sitting in 8th now, which isn't the worst place to be. They've obviously got a new manager in Valerian Ismael. They're level on points with West Brom and Bristol City, who are the two teams ahead of them. They're just 1 point behind Coventry, who are sitting in 5th place. And if we go across the last 5 games, obviously Derby County are in 23rd place. Blackburn Rovers are in 11th. 7 points for them, 2 points for Derby County. Now, away form, Blackburn Rovers sit in mid-table, 19 points from 17 games. 5 wins, 4 draws, 8 defeats. If we go to home form, Derby County sit in 23rd place, 6 wins, 3 draws, 8 defeats. A win obviously takes them out of that, but we said at the start of the season, home form will keep Derby County in the division. And if Derby County are going to stay in this league, it's the home games that are going to do it. Blackburn Rovers, Coventry, Preston, Burnley. Then there's Luton and Stoke on the final day. There is a chance that Derby County could take us to the final day. I'm not very hopeful, as you can probably tell by earlier on in this video. But it's definitely one of those situations where it needs to turn around, and it needs to turn around quick. Now, obviously at the weekend, Fozzie was probably one of the best players on the pitch, along with Armstrong. Will they stay in the team? I don't know. Now, I put out a team that I was prepared for Derby County to play this weekend based on the fact that I did think that we were down. And I still do think that it's essentially game over for Derby County. I do think that the season is practically done now. And I put out a video on TikTok last night talking about the fact that we really are, we're in a really difficult situation because with it going now to 7 points, being jinxed on Boxing Day by our owner, it has not gone well at all. Now, if you haven't seen that team that I put up on Twitter, it was Zetterstrom in goal, Niambi at right back, Rooney, Langas, Elder as the other three in the back four, Armstrong Adams in the middle, Mendezang on the right, Allen and Wilden the other two, and then Roof up front. Now, I did also say put Turley, Robinson and Owen Eames on the bench just for extra options. Why not? And do I think Derby County are going to do it? No, of course not. But do I think that we're at that point now where we really should be looking to those players within the deal already, within the club, who could potentially step up for next season? And that is something which I'd really like to see. Now, we've seen Wilden on the bench, we've seen Allen on the bench, we've seen Turley on the bench, Eames on the bench. Robinson's obviously made his debut earlier in the season. Not this season, earlier in previous seasons under Wayne Rooney, made a couple of appearances the season after, but obviously has been out on loan a couple of times since then. And there's obviously more players who I could name. Like, I could realistically go with like 8 academy players who could play at the weekend. Now, Derby obviously won't do that, and John Eustace won't want to go down and consider giving up, let's say. But at some point, for me, you've got to have that conversation of, should Derby County just give it a go? If you remember back to when Wayne Rooney was Derby County manager at the back end of that season, I'll see if I can get the team sheets up now. But if we go back to, I think it was the Blackpool game, was the game after we were announced as down, where we essentially just said, you know what, let's play some academy lads. And to be fair to you, I don't think the academy lads actually did that badly in the grand scheme of things, like, to be completely honest. Now, there is the QPR game, Bristol City at home. If we go and check the lineup for that game, that's the wrong one. That's Bristol City from this season. So 2022, Bristol City at home. We lost 3-1 at home. This is the team we put out. Allsop, Forsyth, Davis, Stearman, Byrne. Went Thompson and Bird in the middle, Louis Watson on the left, Ebioe on the right, Sabulski up front with Ravel Morrison in behind. Luke Plange, Darren Robinson came off the bench with Louis Sibley and Jason Knight. Carlos Richards and Lee Buchanan were the other players who were on the bench that day. Which, like, you look at that, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 academy players in that starting 11. You've got another 4 that come off the bench. Another 7 in the squad, and not another 2 then in the squad. If you then obviously go and look at the game after that, which was Blackpool, we won 2-0 away. I think Cashin started that game, Ebiselli, Watson in the middle, Plange, Knight, Ebioe off the bench, Agates, Liam Thompson, Sibley, Sabulski was on the bench again. Like, we gave opportunities then. And then obviously the final game of the season, which was Cardiff at home, the team was sort of back to sort of some sort of normality. Knight, Cashin with some youngsters in, Thompson, Bird, Sibley, Ebioe obviously off the bench, Plange, Ebiselli. There was Watson, Agates and Sabulski on the bench again for that one. And for me, at some point, you have to then take a look at the academy lads that we could potentially bring up next season. Because if you don't give them a go, you don't know if they're ready. And if you don't know if they're ready, how can you say, oh, we want you with the first team in pre-season? Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, they'll see these players on a day-to-day basis, training with the first team, training with the 21s, the 18s, whatever. But until they're put into a competitive situation, you'll never know the quality that is potentially there. That's always been my opinion. It'll always be my opinion. I always think you can't judge someone until you've put them in the heat of battle. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what's going to happen over the course of the next few weeks. Obviously, Derby County face Blackburn Rovers this weekend. I'm not expecting miracles, but could we see some changes as we start to prepare for League One? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell, and I'll catch you in my next video.